For the entire offseason, the New York Knicks were linked to a number of different stars. Donovan Mitchell, Joel Embiid, Paul George, Zach LaVine, Zion Williamson. The list goes on and on and on. But one name they were linked to early on was James Harden. And a lot of people in New York were very much against the idea of trading for James Harden. But thankfully, according to an NBA Insider, we now know that the New York Knicks had absolutely no interest in trading for James Harden. We're going to break down that report and see exactly what this NBA Insider stated. We're also going to look at the situation in Philadelphia and how this all affects the New York Knicks and their pursuit of Joel Embiid. We're going to break down this and so much more today. Let's get started. The New York Knicks have no interest in adding James Harden. Is the smile too much on my face right now? I feel like I'm smiling a little too much right now. Absolutely, this is the move. This is the statement. This is what you want out there. The Knicks do not need James Harden. We do not need another player that is going to be a ghost and no-show in the playoffs. That makes no sense. Shout out to Adrian Wojnarowski for reporting the following about him. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, he states the New York Knicks are not interested in James Harden on a one-year rental. According to Woj, the Knicks talked to the Sixers early on in this thing, but there's no great motivation for the Knicks to do a one-year rental on James Harden. Anybody who's bringing Harden in, you're really viewing this as a one-year rental. 1 year. If you're trading for Harden, you're basically getting him for a one-year rental. Harden's already been in New York, did the Brooklyn thing. I'm sure he doesn't want to come back to New York to do the Knicks thing. It's not like the fans are going to be any easier. If anything, the fans are likely going to be against him when he comes to New York, especially depending on what that trade is. And if he's a one-year rental and the Knicks give up significant assets to get him, especially dealing with Daryl Morey, you know you're going to give up significant assets if you're dealing with him. If that happens and Harden leaves and you gave up assets for him, and now you have to build again with less assets, the Knicks are going to have the most egg on their face. James Harden does not make sense for this New York Knicks team. I don't care how much the fans want to sell me that he passes the ball, he's a great passer, he's a Hall of Famer. That's great. I believe all that. Russell Westbrook is probably a Hall of Famer. You think I want him on the New York Knicks? I'm not saying I don't understand talent. I understand fit. You think James Harden fits on this team with Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson? You think that would work? He's another heavy scorer. He plays a lot of isolation plays even though he passes the ball. Julius Randle averages 5 to 6 assists. Is he a scorer first or a passer first? Does he play a lot of ISO ball? Do you think his assists on average count to the fact that he plays more ISO play than almost anybody in the NBA? Assists on average don't mean anything if you're not taking into that consideration that person's game. You have to take that into account. And when you look at James Harden's game, what does it tell you? Heavy scorer, heavy isolation. He can pass, but he likes to have the ball in his hands. Who else likes to do that on our team? Jalen Brunson. Who else? Julius Randle. You think that mix makes sense? He'd have to take a third role on the Knicks team for it to even have a remote chance of working. And that's if he even accepts that role. If he even thinks he's less than a player than Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson is at this stage of his career. That's a lot of ifs for a player that, again, does not show up in the playoffs. How many playoff people do we need to not show up and you want to add more of them? It doesn't make sense. I'm very happy that the New York Knicks were against this. I'm very happy that the New York Knicks have let me repeat those sweet words, no interest in James Harden. I don't praise Leon Rose for a lot. I really don't. But for this one, he gets an A+ from me. Not trading for James Harden, skipping on that, passing on that is one of the best moves you could possibly make because he's an anchor to an organization that he goes to. He moves teams faster than any other player that I can think of in the NBA currently. And a one-year rental at that, he is absolutely bolting to the Clippers as soon as he gets a chance. Everybody in the league knows that. That makes his value even less. And Daryl Morey's still going to ask for the moon and the stars in any trade for him. And guess what? That means he's not going to get his wish, and he's not going to get him. And that means James Harden's probably going to be a Sixer, maybe until the trade deadline. And maybe then, when his value goes even more down, Daryl Morey will bite the bullet and trade then. But I'm sure the package he gets then will be far less than if he traded him now. And that's just my opinion on it. But a lot of fans are asking, what does this mean potentially for Joel Embiid and his situation with Philadelphia? Because it is a good question. With James Harden potentially being traded, in my opinion, he will be traded. What happens with Joel? Because once Harden's gone, all eyes are going to Joel Embiid and his next move. And according to NBA Insiders for ESPN and Ramona Shelburne and Adrian Wojnarowski, they both stated that when the New York Knicks attempted to trade for Harden early on in the summer, the price that Philadelphia was asking for was too high and they walked away. And here's why that's interesting. With James Harden, he doesn't want to be there. He's disgruntled. And they couldn't get a deal to work because Daryl Morey likely asked for the moon and the stars. What do you think happens with Joel Embiid once James Harden's gone? Even if Joel Embiid asks out and asks to go to a different team. Daryl Morey is going to ask for the stars and the moon, plus the sun, plus every other planet in our solar system for you to get Joel Embiid on your team. He's going to ask for that. And that might mean that Leon Rose and company, even though they want Joel, even though they're linked to Joel, even though there's so many connections to Joel, it may not happen. He may not be added because the asking price would be so astronomical that Leon Rose might say, I love you, Joel, but not enough to gut the Knicks to add you because what am I adding you to at that point? I think that's going to be the conversation. Daryl Morey has to be very careful here because if he asks for the moon and the stars and the sun and all the planets and way too much, he may not get any bidders. But I understand where he's coming from. This is one of the MVPs of the league, arguably one of the best big men in the league today. If you're trading him, you want to get as much as you can. I understand that. But there's such a thing as a fair deal and a fleecing deal. Daryl Morey's going to have to take his foot off the gas and start playing ball regularly if he's going to look to trade Joel Embiid properly. But I do think he heads out west if Joel Embiid is traded, just because Daryl Morey's not going to want to see Joel Embiid each and every season, multiple games. It just won't make sense. But it might help the Knicks at some point if he goes out west. If it doesn't work out west, he might come to the Knicks at that point. A lot of ifs, a lot of buts, a lot of maybes. But unfortunately, this is the NBA landscape. This is where we live. And this is what happens. We have to expect this. Do I want Joel Embiid on the New York Knicks? Absolutely. I know what he can do for this Knicks team. I know what he can add to this Knicks team. I know how box office he is. But that doesn't mean I want him for just anything. It doesn't mean I'm gutting my team to get him. I feel that way. And honestly, guys, I believe Leon Rose feels that way too. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think the Joel Embiid situation in Philadelphia is all determined on what happens with James Harden? Or do you think it doesn't matter and Joel Embiid's going to ask out anyways? And if he does, where is he going? To the Knicks, another Eastern Conference team? Or maybe you agree with me and you think he's headed out west? Let me know in the comments because honestly, guys, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. If you like this episode, please go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.